USADA has just announced that they are not going to be renewing with the UFC starting January. We're back, baby. Vitor, Overeem, Lesnar, these guys are all coming back now. Rejuvenated careers all of a sudden start on January. Incoming 280 pounds, John Jones. He's going to go back on his retirement. My man's going to be fighting for another 20, 30 years, reigning over that heavyweight division. But in all seriousness, I don't know if the UFC is going to go with like another program. I can only imagine they will. But this is what USADA had to say about the whole ordeal. Quote, "We can confirm that Conor McGregor has re-entered the USADA testing pool as of Sunday, October 8th on 2023. We have been clear and firm with the UFC that there should be no exemption given by the UFC for McGregor to fight until he has returned 2 negative tests and been in the pool for at least 6 months. The rules also allow USADA to keep someone in the testing pool longer before competing based on their declarations upon entry in the pool and testing results. Unfortunately, we do not currently know whether the UFC will ultimately honor the 6-month or longer requirement because as of January 1st of 2024, USADA will no longer be involved with the UFC anti-doping program." That is crazy. Did Conor McGregor just beat USADA? Quote, "Despite a positive and productive meeting about a contract renewal in May of 2023, the UFC did an about-face and informed USADA on Monday, October 9, that it was going in a different direction. We are disappointed for the athletes who are independent contractors who rely on our independent gold standard global program to protect their rights to a clean, safe, and fair. The UFC's move imperils the immense progress made within the sport under USADA's leadership." This part of it seems like they're kind of butthurt. I don't like the way they frame that whole thing because they're probably going to go with someone else and they want it to be them. But USADA continues, quote, "The relationship between USADA and UFC became untenable given statements made by the UFC leaders and others question USADA's principled stance that McGregor not be allowed to fight without being in the testing pool for at least 6 months." Unquote. And it goes to show that USADA also did not approve of the exemption for McGregor after he dropped out of the anti-doping program while recovering from his broken leg. But then they continue, quote, "One UFC commentator echoed this, recently declaring the UFC should not oversee the UFC program since we held firm to the 6-month rule involving McGregor. And since we do not allow fighters without an approval medical basis to use performance-enhancing drugs like experimental, unimproved peptides, or testosterone for healing or injuries simply to get back in the octagon. Fighters' long-term health and safety, in addition to a fair and level playing field, are more important to USADA than short-term profits at the expense of clean athletes. USADA is proud of the work we've done over the past 8 years to clean up the UFC, and we will continue to provide our unparalleled service to UFC athletes through the remainder of our current contract, which ends December 31st of 2023. As always, we will continue to uphold the rights and voices of clean athletes in all sport." Unquote. So the only thing that'll be bad for the athletes is if there is no testing program. USADA does seem kind of butthurt that it's not them, that the UFC is probably going to go with someone else. And there's never going to be a perfect testing program. But USADA seemed like they did a pretty good job over the years. And maybe the UFC doesn't want to go with them. Is it just because of Conor? There's no way it's just because of Conor, right? Maybe they thought they were a little too strict on the 6-month rule and stuff like that, and they want to go with someone else who are a little bit more lenient on how long they have to be in the testing pool before they fight. Unless we're going back to the Wild Wild West, no testing, unless there's something like that, which I can't believe would happen. I think the UFC is going to go with another testing program. So we'll see what kind of program that's going to be, and I can't wait for Vitor's return.